Welcome back to Odds of War. My name's Matt, and today I'm going to show you one of my favorite tactics in Kill Team and how to defend against it. Stay tuned. So to set the scene here for today, what we've got is a bit of an abandoned dig site here, just as our test battlefield. We've got our unlucky test subjects here, led by the lucky Blue Git and his horde of Bad Moon's Shooter Boys there. And then over here, we've got a good number of candidates for our tactic here, all that will work nicely with what I'm going to show you today. So what is it you're asking? It is going to be how to take the game of Kill Team pretty much in the first early rounds if everything goes your way. Of course, we know it is a dice game. So basically, any of these models here are a nice candidate for the veteran specialist role. All of these here because we're combat focused, and then this one here because we've got a special aura ability. So I'm going to walk you through why they're good candidates. These are going to be, like I said, our targets. We're going to get set up and then we'll show you what the tactic is. All right, so just to go over what we have here, we've got a commando boss knob here with a power claw. We've got a Tseng Gor twist bray here with Tseng Gor blades. We've got a boss knob with Big Choppa. We've got a Infiltrator Princeps with Taser Goad, and a Harlequin player with Harlequin's Kiss. Now, what all these guys have in common over here is that they are veterans. They're available veteran slots for their army, and they all have respectable melee profiles, whether through high AP, high damage weaponry, or something like the Infiltrator here with the Taser Goad, which is more about volume of attacks rather than high AP or high damage, or something in the middle like the Harlequin here, or the knob with the Big Choppa, where it's a good number of attacks with decent AP and decent damage. They all represent a veteran that you want to get into combat as quickly as possible. You can find examples of powerful melee units that can be veterans in any faction. Then over here, we've got something a little different. We've got a Rubric Marine with an icon of flame. In this example, ideally, he'd have a Warp Flamer, but we just don't have one modeled with the icon and the Warp Flamer together. But he represents a slightly different style of veteran for this example. Rather than wanting to get into combat round one, he wants to get mid-board and claim an objective round one. So you'll see our battlefield here. We've got our orcs set up across the way. Our supposed deployment zone for our veterans here will be on this side. And I wanted to set it up this way to show you that it will work with a long deployment style. The success of this strategy is going to depend on 4 elements. The first being an aggressive deployment style. The second being choosing take forward positions in the scouting phase. Third being the veteran's adaptive tactics at the start of the first battle round. And the last being either to achieve initiative, or in the case that you lose the initiative roll-off, using decisive move to guarantee that your veteran gets where they want to go. So let's go down here on the board and let's see what I'm talking about. The first element, of course, like I said, is the aggressive deployment. You'll see all the veterans here are deployed at the front line of the deployment zone here, and that's going to allow them the most amount of movement out of the deployment zone. If you can't, you'll notice for a nice example, we've got our Tseng Gor here, veteran, off to the side. This is maybe what it would look like if this is as close to the middle as you could be, due to either, terrain blocking your movement lane or whatever. But basically just the idea is get as close as possible to your movement lane and out of your deployment zone as possible. The second element for this idea is, of course, using take forward positions. That's option number 5 in the scouting phase. So that's going to allow 20% of your force to take a pre-game normal move. Now, in this case, of course, everyone here is a veteran, so we're going to move them all. But of course, you would only get to move 20% of your force. Yeah, so a variety of different movements here. 8 inches for the Harlequin and the Infiltrator. 5 inches here for the Rubric Marine and the Boss Knob, and 6 inches for these guys, the Commando and the Tseng Gor. So pre-game, they'll all get a move, right? So different movement values. So 6 inches there, 5 inches here, 6 inches here, 5 inches here, so he's moved up. And then now 8 inches for both of these guys. So you'll see now the Harlequin, of course, I'm just gonna get rid of that. The Harlequin, of course, has that nice ability where he gets to ignore any intervening terrain. So he, of course, gets a good bit forward. And then the Infiltrator as well gets to take a nice hefty move forward. So you can see we haven't even started the game and our veterans are already much, much closer to getting into combat here. Now, there is a bit of counterplay here. There is a bit of defense from the enemy team here, of course. They could, in the scouting phase, choose to eliminate sentries, in which 20% of their force gets to then fire upon the your forces. Now, the easy way to guard yourself against that, because you are going to pull this off, you're going to take forward positions every time. And if your opponent expects this, they're going to pick eliminate sentries. So how to guard yourself against that? Eliminate sentries, let's say we're going to shoot with these boys here. Eliminate sentries defines that they must shoot at the models that you moved with take forward positions. So in the case of the Tseng Gor, instead of using your full move to come out here in the open, instead just tuck him back behind the rock here in this example. That way you can either get out of line of sight from your enemy's really scary shooting, or at least gain obscurement so that they'll have negatives to hit. So you can protect yourself a little bit that way. But of course, this is a bit of a gamble. It's always a dice game. So there is that ability, that option of your opponent. They might actually take you out of action right then and there. So there is a bit of a gamble there, but let's assume that, of course, they haven't taken you out of action. Now scouting phase is resolved and you move into the first battle round. So before initiative phase of the first battle round, you're going to activate the veteran tactic, adaptive tactics. This is going to allow you to take a move or an advance before initiative phase. Maybe it's a bit confusing for some. We've seen this in comments before. You actually can advance during the adaptive tactics move and then still move again or charge in the movement phase of round 1. So in this case, of course, what we're talking about is maximizing movement to get to the leader tucked away back here. So of course, everybody is going to advance, and we're going to go ahead and roll these live for you just so that we can see just what it looks like in a varying amount. So we'll start off with the Harlequin. We know he has an 8-inch move, and we'll roll his advance. We get a 3, which is pretty respectable, giving him an 11-inch move, and he does get to ignore intervening models and terrain. So you can see already the Harlequin, just from that set of the take forward positions and adaptive tactics, is within a easy, comfortable charge range to our unlucky blue get here. So let's go ahead and we'll do our Tseng Gor next. He's got a 6-inch move plus a 3 again. That's your average. So he's got a 9-inch move. Now you'll see, is not quite as close as the Harlequin, of course, but that's that difference between movement stats there and the Harlequin's flip belt ability. But he still is within a nice, easy charge range. We'll go over here to our knob next here. Roll him. He gets a 1. So here you go. This is actually a great with a 5-inch move, only gives him a 6-inch movement. So this is a great example of what will happen if your play is not, if your dice rolls are not with you and the play is not as solid. So now you can see we're 8 inches out from the Gretchen. So that's not an impossible charge, but it is getting a bit long. And at this point, you want to start modifying your plan here. Maybe you're not going to charge the leader anymore. Maybe you're going to charge something else. Maybe one of these shoot-a-boys is actually a Luda here. And instead of wanting to charge the leader and shut him down, you're wanting to shut down the scariest shooting on the board, which you're now in range of. We'll go ahead and do our boss knob here, our commando. He gets a 3. We're rolling a lot of averages for 3 today, so he's got that 9-inch move now. And again, same thing. We're just behind the Tseng Gor. We're not super close. We're within a fairly comfortable charge range, but we're also within an easy charge range to gum up something else. Moving over here to the Infiltrator, we'll go ahead and roll him. 3 again, super average rolls, so 8, that gives us that 11-inch move. You can see now he's got a bit of a choice here. He can come around. He's a bit blocked out, but he can get, again, right here, or we could start bringing him around the outside like so. All right. And then now the last one, again, we saved him for last because he is a bit different. We're going to go over here to the Rubric Marine. Now, because we're not interested in getting him into charge range turn 1, we're just interested in him getting into, you know, you'd use him differently because he has the aura effect. So we'll just take his normal move with the adaptive tactics. Now he's up close, but not in charge range. So that's step 3 there. You can see already with step 3, we've closed in to easy charge range and combats here. And then in the case of our Rubric Marine, which is a bit different, he is setting up to basically sit there all game and pump out mortal wounds. So the last bit is fairly simple. It'll be, you'll roll your initiative rolls. You'll find out who has initiative. Now it's the movement phase. If you have initiative, you're in the perfect spot, right? Because you've got your veterans fairly close to charge something, either charge the leader to take him out turn 1, or charge something that you don't want shooting at you, you know, or in this guy's case, he's happy to sit there all game and pump out mortal wounds. In the event that you do not get initiative and you fail to win the initiative roll, you're going to use the general tactic decisive move. That's going to allow you to move 1 model before initiative, before the proper form of initiative. So before you've lost initiative, it's your opponent's turn to move everything. So you use decisive move to move one of your models, which then of course you would activate your veteran because they're already deep. You would charge in, and then you are in combat with your enemy leader. Or in the case of maybe the Tseng Gor or the Commando Boss Knob, let's pretend for a moment that this guy's a Luda. You don't feel comfortable about making the charge into the leader, so you make your charge into something that is scary that you do not want shooting you. That's the basic idea of the tactic. You can already see, I hope, that how either being in combat with something scary against your enemy leader, turn 1 is a very big problem for your enemy, or tying up their big shooting unit is, again, a big problem for them. So now that we've seen how the tactic, the combination works, let's talk about a few ways to defend against it. Okay, so a couple ways for you to defend against this tactic, all right? The very first one, you'll see, of course, the leader is all the way at the back. That is, in fact, a very easy way to defend against it. I intentionally left open this nice lane of movement. But you know, if you haven't heard of the concept of screening, that's basically you want to create a screen in which no model can move through here, right? So now in this case, let's say the Commando Boss Knob, he's done his take forward positions, he's done his adaptive tactics, he's ended up here. He still cannot declare the charge round 1 against your leader, or in the case of maybe something that wants to shoot easily. So he is forced to charge into what you want him to charge into. So now this screening does in fact fall apart against something like a Harlequin model, but it is fairly simple. All you have to do is modify your screening a bit such that you no longer can fit the Harlequin in to combat with your leader. So it does require a bit tighter of a screening. This is, of course, a bit overkill as far as the screening is concerned, but this would, in fact, guarantee that the Harlequin has no path to get in. Now, again, another play, if you are really, really afraid of them getting into combat, you do what's called maybe a backline deployment. You get literally as far away as possible with the pieces that you want to protect, and then you create a screen around that, and then you use your other pieces to again create another screen around that. Okay, this does put you, while it is technically the safest play, it puts you at a massive disadvantage as far as the mission, because almost every mission is going to require you to get in to your opponent's area. So you can use this, but I would only advise using this if your team has all their power in shooting and none of their power in melee, because if even a few of these boys here are wanting to get into melee to provide value, then they're just going to sit out the entire time. This, of course, does leave your Harlequin. Even a Harlequin, again, let's say you're back here for your deployment, right? This Harlequin has an 8-inch move with the take forward positions. They have an 8-inch move plus a D6 with the adaptive tactics. So you're talking about a maximum of a, let's see, what is that? 8 plus 8 is 16. 16 plus 6 is 22. So a maximum of 22 inches of movement. So in the case of the Harlequins here, you can see his maximum amount of movement using this ability, this tactic, this idea of a combination is 22 inches. So you can see how this backline deployment puts the Harlequin in a tough bind. The moment that comes out, let's say he puts his Harlequin here, you are guaranteed safe because the maximum he can move is 22, right? So he gets here and then he's got to charge again. So in this case, you again create your screen like this. There's no way that the Harlequin can charge in. So that's a best case scenario for you. But of course, let's say your team wants to get in or perhaps has to hold an objective midfield or something like that, then you're not going to be able to do that. So what are some other counterplays for us? All right, so we've swapped out some models here, looking at some other counterplays. We've put in a big chop, a boss knob. We put in the commando here to stand in. This is what I would think of as a bit of a bully sort of thing. So now you put your leader or your big shooting model behind not just a screen, but you put them nearby some bullies or bodyguards. So in the event that your veteran here does make it across the board, your enemy's veteran, I should say at this point, because we're talking about counterplays, they've made it across the board. They don't necessarily want to charge in here because they've spent all their command points now to get in, and you have got models that can easily charge in to support, and then you would spend, assuming that you have initiative, you don't have to spend anything, but assuming that you don't have initiative, you can spend the tactic Decisive Strike and fight first with one of these two guys and attempt to kill him before he's even gotten in, thus keeping your leader safe. All right, one other level of counterplay that we have there is, of course, like I said before, you take forward positions. Your enemy has taken take forward positions. They're looking to use this veteran combo. You eliminate sentries and then shoot him and kill him off the board. There you go, eliminates that entirely. So levels of counterplay, we've got eliminate sentries. We've got creating screening and backlining your forces. We've got bodyguarding or bullying your models that you want to keep safe. Those are your major counterplays there against this tactic. Of course, there are some other minor counterplays you can do that will work to varying degrees of success. In the scouting phase, you could select plant traps and try to guide them into the traps. Here on the channel, that's actually worked before in a battle report, but not always guaranteed to work. It's only a 1 in 6 chance. And when you're playing a dice game, you do want to make the chances better than 1 in 6 for you. So guys, there you go. That's it. That's one of my favorite tactics in all of Kill Team to pull off. If you pull it off successfully, like I said, it can swing the game massively in your favor right from the get-go. Of course, it can explode spectacularly in your face if your opponent knows how to defend against it. So if you like this style of video, let me know down in the comments. Hit that like button. Let me know down in the comments below. It does help me to know whether you like these things or not. And of course, down in the comments, please let me know if you've tried this in your games. Has it worked for you? Do you find it effective or not? And let us know of any other sort of combos you'd like to see, maybe combinations of different specialisms or tactics that you would like to see how to utilize better for your kill team games. So if you want to see more videos like this in your feed every week, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next one.